The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
We just see cuts happening.
What did that, Lieutenant?
I don't know.
Tina! What's the coroner got to say? He's in the jar and puking since he saw it.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy? There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
No!
She's the only one who can stop it. If she fails,
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
no one will survive. From Wes Craven, director of The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, a new masterpiece in fantasy terror, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Alright everybody, hello and welcome. It's Mike here today and we are at the filming locations of one of the iconic 80s classics, A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Again, it's Mike, and behind me, some of you guys can recognize this building right here. It is actually the scenes of where they shot the beginning sequence, Tina getting chased by Freddy. The boiling room, or the boiler room, excuse me. So it's going to be Halloween. We're actually in Halloween season. I got the Halloween hat and I'm excited. So filming locations, A Nightmare on Elm Street. So the story goes where Wes Craven was reading these articles on the LA Times about these South Asian people from Laos. I believe they were known as the Hmong or Hmong. They were natives to Laos, and you spell that, I guess, as H-M-O-N-G. And they were people that were brought over from Southeast Asia right after the Vietnam War. A lot of people were relocated from there because communism took over that region. And these people were part of the secret war with the US government, where the CIA was training them to fight, you know, the North Vietnamese. So a lot of these people were having a phenomenon, I believe it was about 117 to be exact, where they would die in their sleep, or they were dying and terrified to go to sleep because they were actually terrified of their nightmares. So one story stood out to Wes Craven as he was reading it, and it was about this man who could not or would not sleep. So the family even took him to the doctors, got him some sleeping aids, sleeping pills, and one night they heard some thrashing in the room. They go into the room and here's their son who dies in front of them in their nightmare. And that stood out to Wes Craven, and that was the inception of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
You done?
Right where I'm going to take you, really quick, is Tina's house, right there. But we're gonna go down this alley here.
Please, God.
This is God.
Not right in here, but to our left, I guess it's called Millwood Court, is where the scene of Freddy Krueger chasing Tina down here, right over here. Everything actually looks the same. But if we go this way, and if we recall, this building here was a shadow of Mr. Fred Krueger right there. Tina, I believe, was coming out right in here. At the time, I don't think it was a garage, or it's a partial garage. It was like a door. They may have put that there for privacy, because in the back of this house there were more scenes with Johnny Depp, who was Glenn, Rod, Tina's house, and then Nancy was the friend. But right here, Freddy was coming up with his long arms. They used two transparent wires to hold his arms up while he was coming this way. And of course he chases her down this alley, going this way. But this is it, guys. This is probably the most frightening scene for me in the movie, because of that spinning room. Or excuse me, not the spinning room, but Tina being thrown across the room. And Rod just staring helplessly. Of course, that wasn't shot in that room. That was shot at a studio, because they had to use a spinning room to shoot it. But a lot of the scenes inside the backyard were shot, inside the house were shot, and I think some of the scenes in the room, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But this is Tina's house, right over here, Venice, California. Guys, we are in the corner, kind of on the corner. We're in Glendon. Cross street is Appleton. And if you remember this scene, Nancy is walking along this sidewalk here. And as she's walking, she's coming across here like... She comes this way. She looks down there and she sees this man in sunglasses. Walks down this sidewalk. I believe she gets pulled into these shrubs over here. But she looks over there in this corner stop sign, and you can see this tree right over there, and that's where the man with the glasses was standing. And of course, Rod gets caught by the cops. He's running down here barefoot, burning his feet up. The cops get him right over there. Let's see if we can get a better shot. Let me just get it right in the tree right here. Right over here. This is where he gets busted. Alright guys, here at the Venice Canals, and if you can recall this scene here, Johnny Depp or Glenn and Nancy kind of talking about the situation that's going on with the nightmares right on that bridge. I think it's Linney Court is the street it's on, right here. Nice, it feels so nice out here, nice day. The back of it there, some palm trees, the canal, and the bridge right there. Walking up there, and they chill right about there. That's about it here. Alright guys, I'm here off of Santa Monica Boulevard, and Madison Avenue in East Hollywood. And to my right, if you recall this building, this was the 5th Precinct Police Station right there. It is a library which I think is closed because there's a bunch of chain link fences surrounding it, or maybe they're just remodeling. But this was the police station, huh? Nancy comes up these staircases here, comes into the 5th Precinct Jail, comes right in, but it's a library. Looks like it's closed right now. Please call again, 1:30. So it must be lunchtime. But this was the 5th Precinct. So it is the Cahunga Branch Public Library. Like someone didn't make it with their nightmare. Passed away there, but of course Nancy comes down these staircases here, and she comes to our right. She comes around this way, and she looks down at this window here. And then that's a little distracted with the noise right there, but yeah, right over here is where Nancy was looking up in the window at Rod, and of course Rod was in the jail cell down there. So right here, there are some shrubs Freddy Krueger pops out in. But this is the 5th Precinct Jailhouse, which is a library. Alright guys, here at the famous John Marshall High School. And if you guys can recall, this is the school of Nancy, Glenn, Tina, and Nightmare on Elm Street. A lot of famous celebrities have been here. One to think of, Leo DiCaprio, and of course the Black Dahlia. There's a photo of her sitting right there. I forget her real name, I apologize. And this was the school here. This was all just exterior shots of the high school. The interior shots were shot at another location, but this is John Marshall High School. If you can recall one scene when they're pulling up in the car, you see little girls in the dream, or in the beginning sequence of the movie, doing their jump rope, and then the camera scrolls this way and it shows Nancy and Johnny Depp pulling up right here, Glenn pulling up right here in a Cadillac. Alright guys, trying to line up the shot the best I could, but of course, there is a little girl leaning against this area, or not leaning, but standing right here, and then the 3 little girls doing their jump rope there. Right here. This was a spot, of course the camera pans this way, and then comes across here like this, and then you can see the car pulling up with Glenn. Alright guys, here at Evergreen Cemetery, and if you could recall or you remember this chapel here, Nancy would be sitting right about here, and we see Mom walk up to her to console her. This is after Rod had died, but this is the chapel. Actually, this cemetery is pretty old. I was looking it up right now. It was built or created in 1877, so this is a fairly old cemetery. There's one more area I want to check out, and I want to say it might be over there. So let's go take a look that way. All right, I found the spot where they're actually having the service for the funeral. Right, and here was the coffin. Let me see, right about there. Johnny Depp, Glenn, and then Nancy, the parents. This was Rod's funeral location right here. And of course, you can see this tombstone in the movie, and then you can see this in the movie, and you can see this in the movie, except this has changed the name of it. I don't know if it was because if they changed it or if they did it because of the movie couldn't get permission. But right here, this was the funeral of Rod. Right there. Alright guys, right here in the corner of Sunset and Genesee, here in West Hollywood. See the palm trees in the backdrop. But turning this way is a residential area. Right where the shrubs are, you can see Nancy's house. Right over there. Now back then, none of the shrubs were there. See, those are shrubs. They must have put all that there for privacy, but that's Nancy's house. That's where her nightmares and her dreams took place. And if you remember, across the street here is Mr. Glenn's house. Johnny Depp's room was right over there in the left corner, right up there. But yeah, this is Nancy's house here. In the movie, it looked bigger. In real life, of course, at least for me right now, just coming through here, it looks small. Right up in there, Nancy's house. And if you look this way, you remember coming this way, Johnny Depp was hiding behind the tree. I think it was this tree right here. Nancy's room, right up there. I can't believe it, I'm here. It's so cool, man. Alright, having another geeky moment, but give people their privacy. But here it is, guys, right off of Genesee Street.
They were cases of young men that had had severe nightmares and had told their families about that, and the next time they fell asleep, they died inexplicably. And the third case was so extraordinary that it finally just inspired a film, because the young man had an extraordinarily bad nightmare, and he told his family, and they had said, oh, you know, we all have nightmares, it's all right. And he said, no, you don't understand, this was much, much worse. And in fact, it was so bad, I'm not going to sleep anymore. Of course, everybody said, oh, sure, right. But he kept himself awake, and day after day went by where he would be awake in the house while the rest of the family was sleeping, and then they became convinced he was having a nervous breakdown, and they brought in a doctor. Sleeping pills were prescribed. The kid would take them reluctantly when the family insisted. He would spit them out after they left the room. And he stayed up for nearly a week, at which the family was at its wit's end. Finally, he fell asleep on the couch, and everybody thought, oh, thank God, that's past. And they took him up to his bedroom and put him to bed, and went to bed themselves thinking, you know, the crisis was past. And in the middle of the night, they heard screams and scuffling. They ran into his room, and he fell silent on his bed, and he was dead when they got to him. So that family had an autopsy performed, thinking that he must have had some brain embolism or whatever. And there was absolutely nothing wrong physically with this young man. So when I read that, it just seemed like, what an extraordinary situation, you know, and how sort of pathetic and evocative and dramatic it is to be a young person that has sees something that is very, very real, and nobody else will acknowledge, and how typical that is of the feelings of teenagers that have visions of things and feelings that most adults poo-poo or act like they don't understand or acknowledge. And so it led to the designing of this first film about you know, a man who had been actually murdered by a group of parents because he was a child molester, and the law had let him go. And they thought that was sort of the end of it, and he turns up in the nightmares of their children. The most chilling thing about that first film was that the parents denied that they knew anything about such a man, and treated their kids like, that's crazy, don't, you know, stop talking about it. So it had even the increased element of the parents being in collusion with each other to maintain a code of silence about something that they'd helped create.